Hundreds of Palestinian families have begun leaving parts of northern Gaza following new evacuation orders issued by the Israeli army. The Israeli military warning that more intense fighting against Hamas is expected there. The evacuation order covering the Jabalia area and most Gaza city districts. Already, local people are saying that there have been new bombardments in the early hours of the morning today in Jabalia. Let's talk about the latest with our international affairs editor, Philip Turle, who joins me here on set. Philip, another weekend of Palestinian casualties as well on top of this, many of whom were once again just trying to get food.
Right, I think we should start by underlining some of the facts here, Stuart, to put all this into perspective. First of all, this is not the first time the residents of these parts of Gaza have been told to move to other parts of the Gaza Strip to escape from Israeli bombardments. What we're talking about here is Jabalia, which is right up in the northwestern part of the Gaza Strip. The residents there are being told to move right down to the southwestern part of the same Gaza Strip, where they're told they're going to be safe. The problem is that all the way down the line, they are victim to bombing raids. And even those who've been sent down to the southwestern part of the Gaza Strip, to the Al-Mawasi refugee camps, say that there have been bombing raids and at least 5 people have been killed. So that's the first point. Second point is that in many cases, these people are tired. They have been moving around constantly since the start of the bombardments by Israel in the Gaza Strip since the events of the 7th of October. 56,772 Palestinians have been killed since then. 80% of them are civilian victims, and 2.1 million people are facing hunger. Now, the bottom line here is there's still no ceasefire. There has been a ceasefire. It lasted for several weeks, and it was broken. And since then, the bombing raids over the past couple of months have been continuous. Hamas is saying, yes, we're willing to sign a ceasefire agreement and to release the hostages, but we want Israeli troops to move out of the Gaza Strip. Israel is saying, we will sign a ceasefire agreement, but only when we think that Hamas has been entirely disposed of and is no longer a threat towards Israel. So for the moment, the two conditions are irreparable, irreproachable. They cannot find common ground in which they can try to work out some kind of solution. And that doesn't bode very well for the future of those Palestinians who are being told to move again in the Gaza Strip, because Israel says it's going to flush out more cells that are being used by Hamas in the north of the Gaza Strip.
In the meantime, Philip, an investigation has been ordered by Israel's military advocate general. I mean, should we give any credibility, credence to that?
Right. Well, all of this boils down basically to complaints about what is called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is an organisation that has taken over the distribution of food aid in the Gaza Strip, where traditional organisations are no longer allowed. The United Nations, UNICEF, Reporters Without Frontiers, Doctors Without Borders, they're not allowed into the Gaza Strip anymore, and no more food deliveries were allowed for a long time. Now, this organisation, which was only created back in February, is undertaking that. It's supported by Donald Trump and by Israel. But the executive chairman, John E. Moore Jr., is an evangelical priest who backs Donald Trump's Riviera plan. So many of those organizations have said, look, this is basically an organization that is weaponizing hunger, and people trying to obtain these packages are being attacked by forces. What is happening here is also that there is such a wide degree of famine and people facing famine in the Gaza Strip. When food does become available, there is a rush to try and get it. And the Israeli forces there are overrun, and that's when they start opening fire. They say they have been ordered to do that. The organization, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, says it's nothing to do with us. We have not seen any events like that taking place. That is why this military advocate general has ordered this inquiry into what is going on there. They say that if there were relevant incidents of that nature, then there will be steps taken to punish those responsible.
You mentioned Donald Trump once again there, Philip. I mean, Donald Trump is ramping up the pressure over a ceasefire again, saying a ceasefire could be reached this week between Israel and Hamas. Sounds great. True or false?
Well, could be, I think, is the answer to that one, Stuart. 2 reasons for that. First of all, there is a lot of buoyancy and enthusiasm amongst the Israeli leadership over what, as you were just talking a while back about what's been going on in Iran over the past week or so, saying that now Iran's nuclear capacity has been wiped out, according to the Americans and the Israelis. It's now the time to continue the war in Gaza to get rid of Hamas once and for all. And the second point is that Donald Trump, you're right, is stepping up the pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu Netanyahu and on the Israeli government and on the international community to let the Israelis get on and get a ceasefire deal signed. Donald Trump is now intervening, trying to push the Israelis to stop the charges against Benjamin Netanyahu, to let him off the hook, to get on with the job, saying that they should not be taking the prime minister to court when he's right in the middle of trying to negotiate some kind of ceasefire with Hamas. The latest news on that is that the court in Jerusalem has said it's going to delay proceedings while Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to work out a ceasefire agreement with Hamas. But the opposition in Israel says that Donald Trump should not be intervening in Israeli domestic judicial affairs, because that is something that is purely within the realms of private affairs within a country and nothing to do with the President of the United States. And one final point I think it's keen to underline is just how popular is Benjamin Netanyahu. Do the Israelis think he's the right man to do the job? There's been another opinion poll. There have been many, but there's one more opinion poll in the Mariv newspaper, which says that 59% of Israelis want the fighting in Gaza to stop now. That's in exchange for the hostages being released, the 30 or so hostages believed to still be alive. 49% think that Benjamin Netanyahu is continuing the war for his own political considerations. And less than 50% of Israelis are confident in Netanyahu's ability to bring the war to an end.
Philip, thanks very much. Philip Turle, our International Affairs Editor here on France 24.